I'm Ryan Durbin from RD Ceramics, and I'm located in Southgate, Kentucky.
And I'm Becca Otis from Five Lines Pottery in Monroe, Washington. And welcome to Wheel Talk.
Hey folks, thanks for listening to Wheel Talk. We would love some more interaction with you all throughout this future episodes, and we would love to hear some listener questions. They may get on the episode.
Yeah, just submit them to wheeltalkpodcast@gmail.com, or you can submit them on our Instagram at wheeltalkpodcast. Thanks.
Go.
Okay.
We got it.
Hi, Ryan.
Hello, Becca.
We're live.
We are. It's Wednesday.
It is. It is Wednesday. Okay, Ryan, ask me the question that you just asked me.
I don't remember what I just asked you.
He asked me if I watched Netflix or Prime more.
Oh, okay.
And I'm watching Hulu, and then say what you just watched.
Okay, so I just finished watching the show Waco.
And
which is like a drama. It's like a dramumentary. I don't know.
A dramumentary. Is that a real word?
I don't know if that's a thing, but it's a drama documentary style sort of show about this stuff in Waco.
I started watching it like a week ago, or maybe a couple weeks ago, and I got bored with it because I didn't want to watch it the next day, and then I just looked it up on the internet. I just looked up the ending on the internet. I wish that shows, because like Ryan plays his podcast on 1.5 speed or whatever. I wish TV was like that.
I mean, you could do that on YouTube.
You can?
But yeah.
But it's YouTube.
Yeah, you can do it on YouTube videos. I've done that before. Like if you watch I don't know, if for some reason you're watching a podcast or watching some video, like, I don't know, it feels like you're more productive if you watch it on a faster speed so it doesn't eat up your time as much.
Yeah, I feel that way with all TV and movies. I'm like, can we just get to the end? The reality of me skipping to the end of a movie is high. It's like an 80% chance.
I mean, Rachel, when she watches movies, she doesn't like any surprise. So if it's like a thriller or something like that, she will look up the ending right at the beginning or right in the middle or wherever. She doesn't want to be surprised at all. It's like, come on.
I don't mind the surprise. I like mystery, but I also get bored really quickly, and that's kind of where my downfall is.
The thing is, that show is like 6 episodes, an hour apiece, so that's 6 hours. But you can listen to a Joe Rogan podcast at 1 speed for 3 hours, and it's fine.
It's different. It's different because they're like, it's so dumb. Like, oh, what show is it that I literally skipped through like half of the show? Oh, Handmaid's Tale.
I haven't watched
I got like addicted to it, and then every time they would, like, she's so slow. The lady, the main character in Handmaid's Tale, like, she'll get scared about something, and the camera will keep on her for like 10 seconds. And so I would just hit plus 10 seconds, like skip 10 seconds all the time.
For a dramatic effect?
Yes! I like, just skip the dramatic effect. I just want to know what happens. I'm like a Cliff Notes. I like Cliff Notes. I like absorbing the information, but I don't want it like drawn out. I don't need a 7-hour show when it could have been 2.
Like, come on, we get it.
Yeah,
we get it.
like,
just get to it.
Like with Joe Rogan, usually they're talking about different subjects, and it's not like drawn out. They don't have an end result, you know. That's the key.
They're not trying to fill a time slot or a time requirement.
Right. So that's my problem with it. Anyway, How are you doing today, Ryan?
I'm good. I got a letter today about a cancellation of a show that's in July, so they officially decided to cancel it.
Oh no.
So I was a little bummed about that, but they refunded my deposit, so I only paid in for jury fee, and basically they said they were going to roll that jurying to next year. So I've got a spot for next year, which has happened with 2 other shows so far this year.
Are you getting a lot of deposits back? Like enough to buy a new kiln?
I've probably got about $600 in deposits back.
Perfect.
You're like, down payment. So yeah, there's been 3 shows that have done that, and so mainly I'm just committed to jury fees for these shows.
Yeah.
But if they're rolling over, then I don't have to jury again, and I'm already in, so it makes it a lot easier. But I'm still bummed about it.
Totally.
That's all right. I did. There is something new for this weekend though.
Oh.
So I participated in the Covington Farmers Market last weekend virtually.
Yeah.
By doing like a demo, and I did that for a couple hours. So they opened it up because Kentucky is opening retail today.
Is it full retail or is there restrictions?
So they opened up retail for, I don't remember the restrictions for just general retail for the state.
Is it like 50% capacity or anything?
But
like
they
that?
can like reopen, I'm guessing,
Oh, okay.
with conditions of like masking and all that kind of stuff. So they told me that they can have me at the show this weekend as a vendor that's
Hey.
not food. So
That's exciting.
the way they're handling it, basically I have to have my products behind me and the customers can't directly touch them until they buy. So I'm going to have a limited selection of types of items available and kind of probably like pull from the back and like show them what stuff looks like on the table behind me.
Yeah. Make sure you
And
get
then-
some Lysol spray.
Yeah, I've got some hand sanitizer, which I told you about that we spent enormous amount of money for
Yeah.
because nowhere else has it.
Yeah.
So I mean, we'll see how that goes. I'm picturing anything with the pottery stuff and customers touching that they're either going to have to sanitize before they get there or before they touch anything and then sanitize when they leave the booth. But with this show specifically, they don't have any product in direct contact with the customers, and they want us to have like a table between us.
Yeah.
So they come up to our front table that's empty, and then we have our products behind us on the table, and then we just kind of do point of sale with one customer at a time.
That'll be
And
interesting.
they kind of like hop along to the different booths with 6 feet behind them for the next customer in line. So
Yeah.
we'll see how that goes. And they have like hand washing stations at the front entrance and the single exit and only one path to walk.
Wow. There was a farmer's market that opened up in Snohomish, which is the county or the town next over, and I heard it was a total shit show. Like,
Really?
total. Like, not even like the people that I heard it from didn't even go in because they were like the line on the outside was so huge just to get in, and I was like, no, thank you.
Wow.
So we'll see.
I'm hoping it'll be good. I've got that one, and then I've got a show on the 6th. That's technically a farmer's market, but it's more like an actual art show, sort of.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that goes. But that's kind of my day. I'm going to finish prepping some pots for a restock on Friday. And that's the main objective for this week, I think, besides the show on Saturday.
Yeah.
What about you? Did you say you had exciting news?
I do have exciting news.
Unemployment?
No, well, I got unemployment, and so that was great. I'm currently trying to figure out how do I make the sound go away on my computer so that notifications don't come.
On a Mac, you can swipe from the right side of your trackpad.
Aha! Okay, cool.
And I think you can click the bottom and it should be like do not disturb or something like that.
Perfect. Thank you. So, sorry about that. I am I got approved for the SBA EIDL loan.
What's EIDL?
That's the
for?
disaster relief loan.
Okay.
It's got like a 3.7% interest, so I'm really excited about that. It helps.
Did they approve it for a certain amount, or is it?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you want to hear the amount?
If you want to say the amount, did you project it? It's for basically the past couple months, or is it projected for you to help mostly over the summer
it's for
while
like
Leavenworth's not happening and stuff?
it's for like expenses and stuff like that. So, I think, and I'm pretty sure this is just because I have good credit, because I have other friends that have bigger businesses that didn't get as much as me. I got 35,000.
Shit.
I know. Like my other friends, like one of my other friends got 15 and then another got 7. And I have the lowest profiting business of all of those. And I'm wondering if it's because of I have really good credit. And I don't know for sure. But,
did you have to tell them your expenses for the year and stuff like that?
yeah. So, yeah. And so they know all that stuff. It's not like it's hidden or anything.
Yeah.
So I got.
But I mean, why wouldn't you get more covered for more if your expenses were really high? You're going to be
Right. I think
more
that might
in the
be
bucket,
the case.
in the hole,
yeah.
if they don't approve you for a higher amount.
Yeah. So that was good. That was really good actually today, because then that kind of helps with some expenses and I hopefully plan on like saving what I don't need to use and then just paying it all back when all of this stuff goes away. I don't really want to be in debt, but
Right.
it's.
So is that a lump sum kind of thing?
I think they do it in installments, but not very many. I'm not sure. Anyway, so
Yeah.
that happened today, so that was nice. And yeah, I'm behind on a lot of orders, but other than that, we're good. We're supposed to open up June 1st, but who knows if that's going to happen. That's
Your state is allowing retail to open June 1st?
Yeah, phase 2.
Phase 2.
Phase 2. Who knows?
Does that mean Leavenworth should be open after that too? Or is that's separate? Because that's
phase
mass
2
gathering.
should be Leavenworth, yeah.
Oh, really? Okay.
So, yep. Okay, what are we talking about today?
We're talking about...
Oh, wait, no, what do we need to do? We need to do the,
Yeah, let's read a review, the last review that we haven't read yet. So this is from May 10th, from Bee's Tone.
Bee's Tone.
I just hear the train in the background.
Sorry.
Choo choo.
Choo choo.
So this one was titled Def a Fave! Exclamation point. After 9 months, I found myself looking forward to each show. Episode 37 about kiln venting was hilarious. Listening to Becca boss Ryan around about getting a new kiln, in parentheses, I agree with her, by the way. I adore how they just say it like it is. Their friendship chemistry is so fun and engaging. Becca's episode about depression was fantastic. Just a matter of fact and honest. It's pretty special in the world of podcasting, not just the Wheel Talk world. So glad they're contributing something unique and valuable to the small group of pottery podcasts. I knew you'd like that one about the kiln venting. Hence why she was giving me shit earlier in this episode about recouping fees to pay for a kiln.
That's right. Yeah. Well, thanks.
Yeah, thanks for the review.
We love the
on
reviews.
Apple Podcasts.
These are really fun. So even if you want to just say something irrelevant, you can. It's fine. Just mark us as the number 5 instead of a 4.
It says we're 5-0, I think, so 4.8, sorry. 4.8 out of 5.
What douchebag put us down? 0.2. I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding. If you're that person, I'm totally kidding.
Whoever it was, they didn't write anything, so.
It doesn't matter. Okay, so what are we talking about today? We are talking about, because I'm the one that came up with it today, we're talking about little tips and tricks that we have learned over the 10 years each of our potterness and what we do differently now. And
We're just dropping random not existing words today.
what we do differently now than what we did then, and like how we've learned, like little tips and tricks of like if you were new and you're like doing these things, and we'll be like, hey, maybe don't do it that way, try this way. Like for instance, I'll give an example and then we'll kind of spitball, go back and forth. For instance, when I started mixing glazes, I remember I was in my kitchen, and this was before like I was in the house, and I was like, for some reason I remember somebody telling me to put water on top of the chemicals instead of the other way around, like adding the water after you put all the
dry material in the bucket. Yeah.
And so I did that, and I cannot tell you how long it took me to mix the bucket. Like, it was the worst experience ever. It was like, I never got it totally mixed up, I don't think. It was the clumpiest piece of messy mess that ever existed. So now, instead of doing that, I put water in first, and then I add my ingredient and let it sink to the bottom before mixing it so that there's no dust.
Yeah, I think we briefly mentioned that in our glazing episode. But yeah, that's the way to go for sure.
Yeah. Well, next week we're going to have Josh on, and he's going to do tell us all about glazing.
Yeah, a lot of glaze calculation, sciencey stuff.
Josh Heim.
Yeah. Related to glazing, I guess one thing would be early on, I was doing some initial tests with, I think, 1 pound batches of commercial glazes from Kentucky Mud Works.
Yeah.
To see what worked. And that was just it was going to be too costly, like, to scale that.
Yeah.
So I kind of, like, stuck with some of the colors I had existing. And then I think I looked on Pinterest. I had Pinterest board with glaze colors that I liked, and kind of went that route and got like maybe a couple glaze combinations, and then got John Britt's mid-range glaze book and kind of went with that and found a couple glazes there. So
you mean the Glaze Bible?
Yes, the mid-range glaze Bible from John Britt. Yeah, so I think that helped because I ended up, and I still have a few of those little country crock containers with like 1 pound batches of glaze in them. Because you're like, oh, I just want to test it on a few pieces to see what it looks like.
It'll be fine. I remember I kept those for such a long time. And then finally I was like, why am I keeping these?
I mean, there is one bucket of glaze that I kept for like 3 years from the person I got my kiln from that gave me their shiny blue glaze.
Yeah.
And I never used it because on the white clay, it just looks like royal blue. And I do not like it because it's so...
dark?
Like, it's so like... bright and obvious that it's like a primary blue. There's no like interest to it that's different than just saying royal blue. So I kept it, but it looks really good on my speckled clay that I started using this year.
Oh, nice.
So I'm glad I kept it. So yeah.
What about I had something with glazes. Oh, what about this? When you started glazing, did you have a bunch of different recipes and then kind of figure out like one base that worked for you?
No, I never really got to the whole base thing, and I tried once, I think a couple years ago, with taking a base of my Joe's Green that I use and adding colorants to it. But I didn't really get too far down that road.
So that's something that I like.
Because I did not know what colors to add. I mean, I could guess what colors based on just the colors that I've used before in other glazes. Like Rutil is going to be more tannish, and Copper Carb is going to look like more greenish.
Right.
So, like, I knew some of that, but trying that base to just get a random color that I want was a little harder.
Yeah.
To get the end result. I don't know, unless you're using, I mean, do you have a base that's like a clear glaze that comes out really good?
Well, no. But I have a base that I use for all of my glazes though. So like I started with like 10 different bases, and because I just chose different recipes out of John Britt's book, and when finally figured out which like base I liked the most, and then realized out of like not knowing what a base was, I realized how it was like, because I messed up the very first time I was trying to make June Perry Red. I accidentally didn't have any tin. I lost my tin. And so I was like, well, maybe I'll put green in there.
Chrome oxide or something like that?
No, well, I didn't end up putting chrome in. I actually ended up putting yellow iron oxide and cobalt in, and it made green. Made like a sagey green. And so then I was like, oh, hey, this works. And then I did it with copper, and then I did it with cobalt, and then I did it with stains, and then I did it with chrome, and then, and then it just kind of like morphed into it. So like, I think that was like a fun little mistake that helped me in my future. And I often like give that advice to people, to like find a base that they really enjoy and then kind of go from there.
So what's your base made out of? Like, what materials are in there? Are they pretty cheap materials like Custer feldspar and?
Yeah, it's EPK, silica. EPK is kaolin, just so everybody knows. Silica. What else? Frit 34 something.
3134.
Yeah,
3134.
3134. I don't think Gersley's in it, but it's all the normal. Nephsi, of course, nepheline cyanide.
Nephsi.
And then I'm like thinking about where the buckets are because they're alphabetized. Yeah.
Because most of the expense in these glazes come with the colorants that you have to add after the bases. The bases are pretty cheap for the most part.
Yeah, like a pound of cobalt is like $40.
Yeah. And those are the things that kind of change in price over time too.
Yeah.
They're not set in stone.
Yeah. And I've messed up, I used to use like my black glaze. I did full black stain, and then one time I didn't have enough, and I was like, well, we'll just see what happens. And that's my most popular glaze. is the one where I cut the black in half, it turned green. So it was like a green blue. But yeah, so that was kind of a trick that I found that I'm glad that I do now as opposed to when I started.
I think the one thing I wish I could, if I did do that, I could reproduce my mystery glaze a little bit easier.
Yeah.
Because I have it right now and it's really good. But I'm like, how long is this going to last? Because I really like it.
That's your slop glaze?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Good luck.
I don't know. There's some glazes that I use that have some different interest to them that are like more matte.
Yeah.
Like the Joe's Green is more matte and it has some variety. It's a little finicky sometimes, but like the ingredients are super simple. It's like 3 ingredients for the base. So I don't mind having a variety of raw materials for the different bases, but I can see the benefit of having one base.
Yeah.
It's just the experimenting to do line blends or throwing random things together to get a calculation that works for a colorant. That's, figuring out what that would be.
Totally. Yeah.
So what about maybe your making process? Is there something with how you throw that's different or?
Good. I'm glad that you were going there too, because that's exactly what I was going to ask you. Which means I don't know the answer. I would say that throwing at the beginning, the biggest one probably is at the beginning. I was using store-bought bats, and now I make my own and have like a bat system that I've made myself. And
did you buy those bat? Are you talking from when you were in? Because I think when I first started, I was in other studios that had materials.
Well, yeah,
so
they had bats there, but then when I started doing my own stuff, I tried to make my own bats, and it was like a massive failure. But I bought 50 round bats, and So that was good, and that like helped me figure out how to kind of like make the bats and stuff.
Right.
And wedging. When I started, well, and I keep in mind, as we all know, Becca had a very liberal upbringing in the pottery community. But I never used to wedge very much anyway, but I would still like kind of like wedge the clay when I was weighing it out. And now I don't even weigh out my clay. Now I put it through a pug mill, and that creates, and I do it with size, you know. But even when I like, even when I got the pug mill, I would still like cut off the pieces and then weigh them out. And now I'm like, screw that, I don't care about that. And I just a pug mill is what, a 4-inch diameter, I think. And so every inch is 8 ounces, and pretty much. And so that's what I just kind of go off of for weight. And so that's helped significantly. And
Before that, did you actually weigh out when you were cutting chunks off, or did you just do like, hey, I've got a 25-pound block of clay. If I'm going to do 1 pound, I'm just going to cut them into 25 about equal parts and just ball them and then use that?
No, I weighed.
Or were you weighing every one?
I weighed every single one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a lot. But you know, I think that, well, and also let's see. I used to like put them back in the bags. You know, I used to put all my weighed out clay back in the bags. Now I just put it.
Yeah.
Now I just put it in a 5-gallon bucket.
Yeah, it's hard to fit it back in the bag, and the bag falls over and whatever, and it's not really rigid.
Totally. So yeah, so there's that, and then I always have 2 buckets of water when I start because my sink's all the way in the back. And so instead of like getting distracted halfway through, so I'll do a full 5-gallon bucket, which comes out to about 57 mugs. Well, at 14 ounces each.
5-gallon bucket of clay balls. I was thinking 5-gallon bucket of water. I'm like,
no.
You get 57 mugs worth of water out of that bucket?
No, no. So a 5-gallon bucket of clay, or which is for me 2 25-pound bags, essentially can fit into a bucket. And that usually halfway through I would be like, oh, I want to like change out my water. Now I just take 2 buckets of water straight to the wheel, and I just switch them out halfway through, and I don't have to like get up and move. Yeah. But I'm like a clean water person. I know people that throw with like the dirtiest of waters and they have no problem with it. I can't do that. So
that stuff gets funky at the bottom.
Well, it's just like so dirty. I don't like throwing with slip. I don't like throwing with slip.
Yeah. Yeah, I continuously keep I think I've always pretty much done this, but kept a slop bucket. So I always have my water bucket and then my slop bucket right next to it, so that I clean my hands and like get slip and slop off my hands. And when I undercut a piece and I cut the clay off, I don't throw it in my water bucket. I throw it in my slip bucket,
right,
or my slop bucket, so that I can reclaim that clay.
Oh, let's like segue into reclaiming right now. How do you reclaim, and how did you reclaim? Like, was there any change in that?
Not really. I mean, I was always letting stuff dry out completely. I never kept wet stuff and just threw it in a 5-gallon bucket wet.
Yeah.
And just always kept it wet. I never did that. I think I saw a little experiment that somebody did at some point where they were showing like the clay breaking down when you throw a leather hard ball into water versus a bone dry ball into water. And you kind of see it break down into the particles and how quickly that takes. So I was like, yeah, I'm just going to dry everything out.
Yeah.
So I always kind of did that and just stored it in 5-gallon, or I stored it in old clay boxes, just dry.
And then what would you do after that was full, like the clay boxes are full?
I was throwing it into a 5-gallon bucket and adding, I don't know that I was doing that at that point, actually. I think I was probably putting it into... I tried throwing it into a pillowcase inside a bucket and then adding water or something like that, and then it comes to a solid and it kind of dries out while it's sitting on the bag.
Yeah.
That didn't really work as well. The best I've done recently is throwing it into a 5-gallon bucket dry and just filling it up with water until it's above the level of the clay, and then mixing it with a paint mixer, kind of metal stir on a drill.
Yeah.
And then throwing it onto the plaster.
Yeah. Yeah, I have like a really tricky past with Reclaim because me and Reclaim have never been friends. But I like stored dry for such a long time, but then I'd have so much slop that I had a bunch of slop, so it's never been like a very set schedule. But now I feel like I finally figured out the system. Like
How are you creating slop? Is it mostly because you don't really have much waste on any of your pots when you're throwing them for the most part, right?
Yeah, so I usually, if I have a 1-gallon bucket of water, usually the bottom inch is slop after throwing like 50 pieces, 25 pieces, somewhere in there. 25 to 50 pieces, depending. And so I used to put it in a separate container, but the problem with that is that it dries out. And also I've never had like a station to actually put the Reclaim on. It's always been like, oh, you have to take it out of the 5-gallon bucket or whatever. So now I have a table that I put shelves on that have holes through them. And so that way there's at least a little bit of airflow. And I put a piece of cement board on top of that. So hardy board. And then now, like I said, dry stuff we used to just put in 5-gallon buckets, which ended up going nowhere essentially. But now we put it right into the slosh bucket in the back, which is we have a huge horse watering trough full of
that thing is huge.
It's like 150 gallons. Full of clay, and I would always just empty it out and put it into 5-gallon buckets, but now we're putting all the dry material into that, and it's like decomposing down, and then once a week probably I'll take one of the 5-gallon buckets, I'll dump it onto the cement board and let it kind of like dry out to a point where I can stick it into the pug mill. And then I'll so I have 3 5-gallon buckets, and I've just been kind of like rotating through that. But I still have like a shit ton of clay in the corner that I need to get rid of, and I'm not totally sure.
That's in a bag, or
no, they're in Rubbermaid containers, and they're like 30 gallons to 50-gallon Rubbermaid containers. Like I have
and that's wet?
much clay. It's like wet hard. It's like really.
Oh,
it's like
it's stuck together so much.
Yeah, it's hard to get.
It's not easy to break it apart so that it can all dry out to bone dry.
Exactly, and I'm wondering if I put water in there, if it'll get better or whatever. But it's just a total shit show. So that's something that I'm continuously working on. But I would definitely recommend keeping up on. If you're starting out, keep up on Reclaim. Do not let it sit in a bucket for too long. Like. Let it sit in the bucket for a month just to get some of the plasticity back, but don't let it stay longer than that because it's going to get stuck, and then you're going to have... When I moved out of my house, I think I had 15 buckets of clay that I either gave away or took to the dump, or like it was so bad, and it's still bad.
Would you also say, would that have been a lot easier to... The thing is, there's not an easy way to reclaim clay that is like hard leather hard.
No, it's really hard.
So, would you recommend?
I would recommend throwing it away.
Throw it away.
Throw it away. Honestly, like if you get into a situation like what I had, where it's like you have 15 5-gallon buckets.
No, I'm talking about to prevent that.
Oh, to prevent that.
When you get to the 15 bags of it.
So dry it out fully. And then
dry it out fully, and that's like you're throwing slop. Well, with your bucket right now that has 1 inch at the bottom,
that's all
still
slip.
Have clay in the water that's not settled,
Right.
Do you pour that off the next day so that all the water on top clear is dumped, and then you just dump the slip
No, I just
onto
I
something?
just dump the entire bucket into the slosh bucket, and I let it settle into the slosh bucket, so it all gets kind of like incorporated in. And then
Okay.
all dry pieces, like if you have a bunch of dry material, if it's a ton and I don't want to deal with, honestly, I know this is sacrilege, I throw it away. I have so much reclaim and clay doesn't cost that much money, but I don't have like a lot of.
Do you have people local that would be willing to come
No,
over? And
I don't think so. I mean, and if I
wanna
do,
take it?
let me know. Like, but I've been pushing for people to start making pizza ovens and stuff so I can get rid of all the clay that I have. But like, if you get to a point where it's so much that you can't even reclaim it, throw it away. Like, don't be an idiot. Don't just keep it around. Don't be like the person that is a hoarder that has 15 5-gallon buckets of clay in the corner.
Yeah,
Like-
or like one big 30-gallon trash can or 50-gallon
Yeah.
trash can that you throw your slop into.
Don't-
Don't get into that problem.
Don't
Start
be
with a big trash
that
can.
person. Like, don't be that person. And I don't care who tells you to keep it, but if you cannot keep it, like if you cannot reclaim it in a timely manner, it is cheaper for you to throw it away than it is for you to go through all the labor to like figure it out once it's 150 gallons. Like, it's just...
Yeah, that bucket is huge by that time.
It's huge. It's huge.
If you can't, I would say try to reclaim. Like, personally in my studio, I reclaim 5 gallons at a time. So once
Yeah.
I get to the point where I have enough trimmings to fill a 5-gallon bucket, then I'm reclaiming it. I'm not going over and taking up additional buckets
Right.
and box space and all that stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I have a studio with a lot of people, so it kind of like accumulates. But yeah, that's what I would suggest is get on it now. Be proactive with your reclaim, because obviously you want to try and reuse that clay, but like, if you get in over your head, don't have those stupid pottery like old people in your brain and be like, you can't throw that away. That's a waste.
That's money down the drain.
That's money
or
down
in
the drain.
yard or
You know
whatever.
what? It's money to try and reconstitute it and to put all your back into all of that work. So
Yeah.
choose your battles, and reclaim isn't the battle you want to choose if it's too much to handle.
And to get yourself in a system that will work, before I think I just had one plaster bat
Yeah.
that I made from a mold of a bucket or one of those Rubbermaid bins or whatever. I have 2 of those now, so I keep 2 of them kind of in flight, and then I can,
Yeah.
with my 2 different clays, now I can reclaim one clay on the one bat, and it's like speckled brown or whatever, and then the other one's white clay, so I can kind of reclaim 2 different batches at a time, and that'll probably make 7 pounds of clay of reclaim
Yeah.
per bat. You know, I don't pile it up so much, but
Yeah.
you know, I'm reclaiming that from dumping it on the plaster to flipping it over to taking it off and wedging it is probably over 4 days maybe.
Yeah.
Probably 4 days.
Yeah. And like, yeah. Definitely.
Just get it on plaster, let it do its work.
Or hardy board. Hardy board works great too, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah.
What was I gonna say? Oh, my slosh bucket probably has 150 gallons in it, and I would say half of it is slip and half of it is water. And I take out like 3 to 4 gallons of slip every time I pull out and put it into a bucket. So maybe once or twice a week.
Yeah.
So, and that creates probably like 25 pounds of clay.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I haven't got to the point where I've got a pug mill yet, so I think if I keep up with it, I think I can maintain.
Oh, yeah. Once you get it maintained, you're fine. Totally fine.
Yeah. Just because, would you say just because you have a pug mill doesn't answer all your
Oh,
questions? Because
no.
you can't you're not having students take their work and dumping it right into the pug mill.
Right.
Because it's not ready to be mixed like that. And you don't have just dry clay material ready to intermingle
No.
with wet clay.
Right. So, yeah, no, definitely a pug mill is not the answer to all your problems. It certainly helps in certain situations, but If you are in a studio less than one and you make less than 1,000 pots in a year, or even 5,000 pots in a year, you probably don't need a pug gnome. So, yeah, definitely for sure.
The only other wheel sort of thing that I was thinking of, even though we got to the reclaim, was standing up. I've been standing up for a couple years and throwing. I do have a wheel that is my second wheel that I trim at, and I also, I haven't done that as much lately. Right now, this wheel is for white clay, this wheel is for speckled clay. So I throw the speckled clay on the wheel that sits down, and I throw with white clay on the other wheel.
Oh, it's smart to have two wheels for sure.
And then I can trim on the one, and usually my tray is like, I don't clean my tray that often.
Yeah.
I also don't let it get nasty for 6 or 8 months. Like, if I'm not going to be in the studio and not throwing for 2 weeks, that clay is probably going to dry out over that time. So I'm just going to dump all that dry clay into my reclaim.
Right.
That's all dry bits, and get that out of my tray so that my tray is somewhat clean. So the next time I throw, it's just starting to build that new skin of clay in the splash pan. So
yeah,
I've been standing up for a little bit, and I really like it.
Yeah.
I just feel like it keeps me more agile. I don't know how it's helped my body over that time, but I think it's been better.
Well, it's like you're not sitting, so you're not like succumbing to being tired. You have to like stand and be at attention almost,
Yeah.
So that's nice.
I sit all day for work, so I think that also makes it like doable. It's not a big deal to stand.
What about wear boards? Have your wear boards and your shelving like changed over time?
Yeah, I've got a lot more shelving. I actually just upgraded my shelving I had some wooden shelves that were like, over time I was waiting for one of them to just collapse because I was piling so much stuff on it, because I'm like, I've got this space. I've got vertical space. I can stack things, and I can fill up all the space I need on this shelf or these 6 shelves. And so I upgraded to some carts that they roll, but they're not going to roll because they're so bulky.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to move them, but they're bulkier and more heavy duty, so they're metal, and I can like put a lot of pots on them, and I'm not worried about the structural integrity of those shelving units.
Yeah.
And then as I'm throwing pots, I'm putting them on wooden wear boards that are pretty good plywood boards that used to be shelves, or, drywall boards that absorb moisture. I'm not putting them on stuff that's going to stick. And they're at a good size to where I can fit a big Rubbermaid container over top of them to kind of create a damp box overnight if I need to. And it kind of narrows me in on what I need to make and how much I'm going to make at that time, because I can fit like 20 things on that board if I cut them off and pick them up and put them on the board, rather than like piling a bunch of bats everywhere.
Yeah. So
how has yours changed?
Yeah, mine's changed quite a bit, actually. I started I followed the system that my previous studio had, which is essentially a shell of a shelf. So like 2x4s that create a shell that's probably like 18.
It's just like a skeleton shelf. There's like barely
18
any
to 24,
foundation, and that's it.
Yeah, 18 to 24 inches wide, and then like levels, and then I have 8-inch by 4 feet wear boards made of particle board, press board, and not the really fancy MDF, the one less. And I use those, and those go on the shelf so they basically create their own shelf. And I use those for such a long time, and I really still like that system. However, when I went to Rebecca Graves' studio, I noticed she was using rolling metal shelves. And so now I do kind of like a hybrid system. So my personal studio, that's like the little nook that I created this last year, has slat walls. So I still use the wear boards and put pieces on there, because the reason they're 8 inches is because my bats are 7 inches. So they fit right on top.
Yeah.
And I can get 9 pieces on a board. And then I move them and kind of like compress them down later. But what's really nice is that now I have like a hybrid of the rolling shelves that I can move all throughout my studio. So the way it used to be was I would get wear boards and put them on these shelves, and then I would transfer those wear boards to a cart, and the cart would go to and from the kilns to the front.
Room. Yeah.
Right? Now, I have specific shelves for specific purposes. So I have a glazed shelf. I have one shelf that doesn't go through the door because it's not cut off. It's too tall. But the other ones, my friend helped me cut them off, so they're short enough to go through the whole shop. And so I have one that has, and I put like a shelf liner down of like vinyl tile flooring that I got for free. And so I use those for hand building and for my bisque. And so I end up putting all of my to be bisqued like final pieces on those boards on that shelf, and transfer them from the wear boards that I have onto the shelf. And that way I have so much more space and so much more like pieces on the shelf that I can put into the kiln, it's been like revolutionary. Honestly, it's been amazing. And having the shelf for students to put all of their finished glazed pieces on that shelf, and I can just roll it into the kiln room, has been fantastic. Yeah. Because usually they used to put it on the wear boards, and then they'd have to like pile it up, and then it would never be compressed enough, and it was just very, very, very annoying. And so I've really enjoyed those, and I got them off of Amazon. They're just, but if I was going to buy them again, I'd buy them from the web restaurant store, that webstaurant.com, because their shelves are way sturdier. And not that you really need the sturdy ones, but it's kind of convenient, when you have a lot of weight. But yeah, that has been really great.
Were you early on transferring? You had to take things out of your basement studio, right? So you had to carry boards up the stairs and stuff?
Same wear boards. Like, thankfully, when I left my studio, the studio that I was working at, or that, like, I was part of, she was like, we have a bunch of these boards that are old and really shitty. Do you want them? And I was like, yes, I do. So I ended up getting, like, 20 really crappy boards from them, and I still have a bunch of them, actually. But, yeah, so I still had the shell frame that I put the boards on, and then I'd take one of the boards off, walk it up the stairs, through the house, to the front. It was terrible.
Wow. I'm curious why well, I'm just used to using, maybe because I live in the world of getting something to kind of a rectangular board shape so that I could fit the bucket over top of it for a damp box. Mm-hmm. So that's why, like, the long, skinny boards are kind of seem a little more awkward rather than having a board that's a little bit shorter but wider so that you could fit two rows of things.
I don't need damp boxes. I've never lived in that.
Yeah.
I've never, like, lived in that world of needing a damp box. And even when I was doing large amount of mugs and I'd need to cover them, I would just take the boards, put them on a table, and cover the whole thing with plastic. Like, it never, like, I didn't learn from a damp box. And I don't think you did either, but you kind of got, like, accustomed to that. Like,
considering I wasn't working every single day.
Right. And since I've always been working every single day, and at the studio in my house, the basement was so humid that if I turned off the dehumidifier, it would be a damp box by itself. Yeah. So, like, but being here, it's just like I just do things so fast that it doesn't really matter. Hey, Marble. What is that?
Marbs.
Hey, Marbs. Yeah, so it just didn't matter. So I would just cover it. And then, I would use, like, smaller sheets of plastic. Guess what? I found, like, humongous sheets of plastic at Lowe's that they give you to cover your wood with. That's what I use to cover all my stuff.
I got one piece of that. semi-recently, since you mentioned that before, and I use it for... I think I just use it to cover my wheel when I'm doing the carving on my black and white pieces, because I don't want those carvings to go into my splash pan.
A lot of this has also changed because of the cats. The cats really enjoy plastic, especially Lloyd. And so whenever I'd cover all of my mugs up, he would step all over the plastic and mess up all the mugs. And so I've kind of had to like find systems that work better, you know? So, yeah.
What about some stuff that, like, here's an example of something that I wish I didn't do as much. Like, I would keep every single clay box that I had and every single clay bag. I've still got a clay box filled with clay bags that I'm like, it's like, how do you get rid of this stuff? And I feel bad because I'm throwing it away or whatever because it's a big, thick plastic bag. But I'm like, who could use this? Because I'm never going to have enough reclaim to fill these bags.
So there's two things. One, for the boxes, you should check with your supplier and see if they take them back.
Okay.
Because there's a good chance that they'll be like, give us our boxes back. Like, I know Seattle Pottery Supply used to give you a credit on your account if you brought back 50 boxes. So, like, you know,
how much was it?
Probably peanuts. They're super cheap.
It was like 50 cents a box or something?
No, I don't think so. But it might have been like 5 cents a box or something like that. But
okay.
But like still, regardless, if you give your box back to the supplier, they can reuse it, and that's just helping the environment all the more. I've never had an issue with like throwing away boxes because people use them all the time. So like all the boxes that we go through, we just kind of like pile in a corner, and then when somebody needs a box, I just grab one of them.
Yeah.
For the bags,
I mean, it's probably a little bit easier in your studio because you have customers taking paint-a-pots and you have students taking finished work, so that you're just like, yeah, take a box. We've got boxes.
Mm-hmm. And if people bring me boxes, I'm like, please take this back. And please take this home. I don't need your box. I have plenty. But then for the bags, I don't do the bag. I mean, I just throw them away.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know anybody that would use.
Like, who would use that?
Like, you could ask your supplier if they'd take them back. But you can also cut open the bags and use them to cover your pieces with.
I have plenty of plastic for that.
Right, but I mean, like, if somebody else didn't have plastic, you know, you could use it to cover your pieces, but...
I mean, I've taken some to Baker Hunt to give them because they reclaim clay.
Right.
And they are short on bags sometimes. But, I mean, I give them, like, 20 bags, and, like, that's plenty to hold them over for 2 or 3 sessions.
Right. Like, do they have a pug mill?
Yeah.
You should use their pug mill.
It's a really small one.
Like a 7-pound? What brand is it?
I don't know. It's small enough that it fits on a cart that's probably 3 foot long.
That's how big mine is.
It's not very, very bulky or anything. Ding!
I'm sorry, I'm halfway.
Okay, so I need to throw away some of these clay bags. There's certain things I'm genetically like a pack rat, so
Me too.
There's some hoarding in my family a little bit, so saving things to figure out what I'm going to use for later is a common thing.
Clearly, I have like 150 to 5,000 pounds of clay in the corner of my shop, so I understand. Also, I apologize. I'm like 1.5 glasses through a bottle of wine.
You're celebrating all your loans and stuff.
Yeah. No, I had it and I was like, I don't want it to go bad.
Yeah, you can't let it go bad.
Might as well drink it.
What else about what about something with like selling maybe? Because when we kind of brought this up, I was asking, do you mean when we first started selling or when we first started making? Because when I was first making, I was in other people's spaces and I wasn't thinking about ways of selling the items that I was making. I was just trying to have fun and make some different forms. And
I feel like I'm still a noob on selling stuff.
Yeah?
Yeah, a little bit. I'm so not as progressive as the other people.
I think your sign thing that you mentioned in the past. Damn, Marble bit me. The sign thing you mentioned in the past, like that's probably going to become more important moving forward, so customers don't have to pick things up and they can look at a sign of what something is, and if there's a price on a sign with COVID stuff, they don't want to touch everything and pick everything up. So
That's a good point. So
I'm gonna have some signs for my booth coming up.
yeah, so when I started, well, the evolution of booth for selling is extreme.
Yes, I was throwing together random furniture of like displays that I had.
I remember my first show was May 1st, because it was my birthday. May 1st in 2013? Maybe 2014? 14. And it was in like this weird pop-up. And I was like so stressed, and I got like, I don't know, these weird like shipping crates and stuff, and used those, and I was just so stressed about what my table needed to look like. And now like my booth is so much different. Like the booth from when I started in Leavenworth to now, I actually posted a picture on my Instagram yesterday on the stories about when my
I saw that
booth collapsed. But it was like OSB shelves with, it was so fucking terrible. Like, they were so bad. So bad. It was like 2 shelves in the booth, and it looked so terrible. And now I have like 3 ladders that hold up 8-foot shelves, and it's like super sturdy, and it looks good. It looks like a store. It looks like you're supposed to be there, Like, the booth has evolved exponentially. And it will keep evolving, But
right.
I don't know if I actually ever price things individually from the get-go. I don't know if I have enough patience for that.
I always pretty much did. I'm definitely more confident in my prices, and like I think I'm kind of looking forward to not having to price things individually. If I have a little sign that says planters this amount, and then I don't have to do that.
It's fantastic.
They can read it.
It's fantastic.
It's one less step that I have to do once I
except for
unload a kiln.
Except for the fact that
like,
people won't read the sign. Oh, how much is this? The sign's right there.
I mean, I will still price the mugs and stuff because they vary for every mug style and size and stuff. So I'll still price those, but things that are very common and
I think
consistent.
that's one thing that I've changed from the beginning. Is at the beginning I had so many different items and they were all priced differently, And now I'm like, the mugs are all the same price. The planters are all the same price. The garden sticks are all the same price. Like, I have 10 different items and they're all priced within that item. I think that that's something that's changed. Like, it's very simple.
You're like, I have one mug style and they're all the same price.
I actually have 2 mug styles, but yes. But yeah, like, seriously, it's very across the board, and like 1 to 3 mug styles, that's it. Wine glasses, that's it. Tumblers, that's it. But tumblers, wine glasses, and this other item are all the same price. So you can, bind those together. Like, it's very simple, and I definitely didn't have that at the beginning. Having more of like a quote-unquote line of products that is predictable has been something that's changed that I really like. It's so easy for that last sale when I did the wine glasses. Every single wine glass was the same price. Every single wine glass was the same size, the same weight. It made it so much easier when shipping. Like, it just made the whole process easier.
Do you feel like for the mugs you're missing out on some sales?
No.
Because there's people that like smaller mugs and they don't drink that much liquid, or
no, I don't care.
No.
I don't care about those people.
Or there's somebody that's like, I need a mug that I can fit all 4 fingers in.
Yeah, no, I think that there's so many mugs in this world that if people like my mugs, then they'll buy my mugs. And if they want a 20-ounce mug, they can go someplace else.
Yeah.
I've also almost gotten fired for a job for saying stuff like that. I don't care about you. No, I do care, but like it's just that's what I make and that's what I like to make, and I think that
That's where you're
Yeah.
at. That's what you enjoy, and that's what keeps it sane for you.
Yeah.
So that you can enjoy what you're doing.
right.
Versus
Yeah. What about pricing? I'm cutting you off. What about pricing? How has your pricing changed since the beginning to now?
I think I just threw out some prices early on with the mugs and such. I think I started at a base number like 16 or 18 bucks. And the mugs were very different, like one to the next. The shape was a little different, the ounces they held, and like the glazes. And I probably priced it a little different based on how much I liked the end result of the piece.
Yeah.
Rather than like, this thing holds 12 ounces and this thing holds 12 ounces, but I like the way this glaze turned out better, so I'm going to price it a couple dollars more than the other one.
Yeah.
So I think right now they're pretty consistent because when I'm throwing stuff, I throw the same weight of clay, and I might throw 20 of them.
Yeah.
You know, there's little variations and differences in them, whether I do like the kind of swirls up the side, or if I do the metal rib up the side, or if I rib it and I like put dimples from the inside or something like that. So there's some differences, but they're all the same weight, so they're going to hold about the same amount of liquid. And that's kind of how I price them now. So it's based on how much I throw with and kind of how much they hold.
Yeah. I think that this year is like finally the year that I'm like seeing my worth. Does that make sense? Like,
I don't get what you mean.
Like
you don't have to defend your price?
Yeah, a little bit. You know, it's like I've been in business for 5-6 years, and at the very beginning I was selling things for like $18 or $15 or $12, you know? And I didn't feel like the quality was up to snuff. And finally this year it's been like, no. Like that wine glass is probably worth more, but I'm giving it to you as a deal for $20, you know? Whereas
you should be appreciative.
Right. Like it's I feel different about the products, you know? It's like I've worked so hard on developing this and you know, I think it actually came when I started selling things that were like $75, you know, like the painted mugs or the painted wine glasses. And I was like, no, I fucking tried. I tried on that mug. I actually put in effort. And
so were you reluctant when you were initially pricing those?
No, I wasn't. Like, that was the weird thing. I was just like, that's $45. Honestly, I'd sell it for $75, but I don't think people will buy it. So that's $45. And then like the mugs, I was like, no, they're $75. Even Andrew was like, the wine glasses are $45 and the mugs are $75. Like, what the hell? And I was like, or it was like $60.
You're like, it's just got a handle on it. How is
and
a
he's
handle
like,
worth $30?
It's a $20 handle. And I was like, fuck yeah, you didn't paint that handle. I did. And it was a pain in the ass. I've become a lot more confident in my pieces and the prices that I sell them at. And the fact that, I don't know, the fact that like, you're spending $20 for a mug. Of course, always I will have that like subconscious feeling of me of like wanting to have the cheapest products, you know, or wanting to like sell cheap items because people can afford them. And I will still always have pieces that people can afford. But still, I've this year has been kind of like an evolution of me like backing up my prices and my products. So that's been nice. And also I think that like the glazing has been a lot funner and like a lot more, you know, like my glazing, like the evolution of glazing from year one to now has been intense, like totally different. And
yeah, and you know when you put glaze on in a certain way, you know what the end result's going to look like.
Yeah. And now it's just like a lot funner, more fun, like combos. And so I feel like the prices that are what they are justified because it's been 5 years of figuring out glaze combinations and yeah. So yeah, that's that.
I think the confidence certainly builds over time as you go through the ringer a little bit and go through the number of shows that you do or the number of customers you interact with. And like if you have a variety of items that can be bought at different price points, then having customers like balk at your price,
right,
or question it or go back and forth, try to negotiate, say like, if you don't want to buy it for this price, then buy this other item that I have that's $5 cheaper. Like you have plenty of options to choose from.
totally.
So, and that's kind of why I make, why I might have mugs that range from $24 to $48.
Right.
Because there's a lot of variation in there and there's a lot of preferences people have for what they want out of it. And I might have been a little bit more reluctant with my pricing or my confidence in the items early on. And I think the being able to put your items out there and like not be self-conscious about, oh, it's not selling. Is it not selling because of XYZ? Am I just not good? Is this form just not good? Did I just not make the right decision with this piece or this color or whatever? Like over time I'm using the data behind like what sells well to judge whether I keep pursuing a glaze combination, for instance. Right. Like if something is not selling, I'm not going to force it because I get enjoyment out of figuring out how to match, what I like with what the customers like. Mm-hmm. So finding that sweet spot is what's fun for me, I think. And you're only going to get that with more interactions and more sales.
Yeah, that's true.
Because, like, if people like it a lot, they can say they like it a lot. But if they're not buying it, then how much is that worth?
Do they actually like it?
Yeah. So that's like with the Etsy stuff recently, I've been kind of figuring out what I want to put on there based on what sells. Like if things are selling out in a certain style, like the black and white oil bottles that are carved, like I've sold every single one of those and they've, maybe they sat a little bit for a week or two, but they eventually sold.
Yeah.
So I'm going to keep putting more of those on the shop.
Yeah, you should.
Because I know there's demand for them and I know they sell. So looking at what items sit, maybe I won't put as many of these copper items on there because people aren't buying them online.
Right.
So, maybe there's something I need to figure out with the glaze. Are people buying them in person? Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. So maybe I need to figure out a way to incorporate that in and make it work so that I can sell it. Mm-hmm. Because, like, if you just make stuff that's just for you, that can only, like, if you're not selling it at the end of the day and you just pile it up, you just have a bunch of the same pieces you like, but...
Same old shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's true.
I feel like there was something else, but I was trying to figure out.
I'm sufficiently intoxicated, so you're going to have to figure out the rest.
What about, oh, gosh. What about your, have you changed with customs or inquiries that customers ask about that you're, maybe you were in the past you would have said, oh, let me get back to you or email me.
Yeah.
And I'll let you know.
God,
or something like that.
By the way, the email trick is the best trick in the book. If you don't want to do something, say, how about you email me that? And if they email you, then you know that they're like serious. But if they don't email you, it's not on you.
Yeah.
That's so good. Anyway, so let's see.
Did you take a lot of customs early on?
I did. I took a ton of customs early on. And now I don't. I've taken a few since coronavirus started. I am stopping, though. I am so sick of customs. It's terrible. So, it's been horrible. But It's not even that I don't like doing the pieces. It's just that I end up forgetting, and then they're a month late, and then it's all on me. It's not on them. But yeah, I definitely stopped taking customs. That was I was like fighting to get by. Also, when I started, I was like so stern on not giving any discounts at all. That's something that this is something I'm glad I did at the beginning. Not that I didn't do at the beginning. When I started out my business, I was like, no discounts, not even if you're a family, you have to pay. I don't care. And I did that for
Did they ask for discounts?
Oh, tons of people asked for it. Or they expected it. And
yeah, that's the bad part. When you expect it and you're like, yeah, and I'm going to get a discount, right?
Yeah, right, exactly. And I actually got in a yelling match with an acquaintance's boyfriend about that, and it was a bad moment. Anyway,
like he expected the discount and she was
fine.
Or I'm assuming he.
Yeah, she was fine with paying the price that I gave her, which was nothing. It was $16 for a mug. And he was like, "You didn't give her a friend discount? Come on." And I yelled at him, and I've never yelled at anybody. And I did it in front of his 2-year-old, and it was terrible. I felt horrible.
Ooh.
Anyway.
Like, how dare you tell me what I need to price
my
stuff?
Anyway, so when I was starting out, I didn't accept any discounts. There was no discounts. I never gave anything away for free. I never did any of that. And now that I'm established, I give away shit for free all the time. I don't care. Like, I'm not going to lose money over giving away one mug out of the 150 mugs that I just made. That's not an issue for me. But had I done that at the beginning, I think that I would have gotten into the habit. And
then you're known as somebody who gives away stuff for free.
Exactly.
If a discount is built in. Then...
Right. Exactly. And then you feel guilty for, like, charging somebody. And so I'm super glad that when I started out, I was like, no nonsense. I remember somebody was asking me about this at like a community group that I was in. And they're like, so Becca, like, what are you doing? Like, do you go to this, like, are you just going to like give it away for free or do a class for free? Oh, it was about, what was it about? It was about soup bowls that I donated part of them to do a fundraiser for the youth group. And he's like, so do you do it for free and just volunteer your time? And I was like, oh, no. No. They pay for the materials. And my friend looks at him and she's like, Becca doesn't give anything away for free. You have to pay for everything. I'm like, thank you. So if I hadn't done that in the very beginning, I think that I would, I don't know if I would be where I am. As far as,
I mean,
like,
that kind of comes down to your personality and your, like, self-respect, right?
Yeah.
You want respect for your time and your investment. Just because people think it's something you really enjoy doesn't mean it has no cost and no value to it.
Right. Yeah. So I think that was a really good thing that I did at the beginning, and I'm proud of myself for that. And now that I'm established, if I give away a mug or whatever, it's no skin off my back, and I can do it because I can afford to do it. And I think that if I had started that way, then I wouldn't be able to afford to do that right now. So.
And if there's like a piece sitting on a shelf somewhere and somebody really likes it, but you're like, this piece has been around forever. Like, if you like it, just take it.
Just take it. Yeah, totally.
It's like less space and less clutter.
Yeah.
Could benefit.
Totally.
Like, there's pieces I'm sure I've given away that I don't even remember giving away.
Right.
It's like, nice. There was something else I was thinking about with when you mentioned the discounts and stuff. I haven't really done, like, social media giveaways and stuff. I did, like, 2, I think, in the life of doing the social media giveaways to try to get the likes and the follows. And I haven't done it in forever. And I don't really feel bad about it. Like,
I don't do giveaways anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I do the ones at the shows, so I feel like I'm giving away items to people in person that can support me locally and stuff like that. And I feel like if you do giveaways all the time, it loses its it's enjoyment, right? If you do it all the time and they're like, I'm going to give away at 100 and I'm going to give away at 200 and 300 and whatever. It's just like it gets to be too much and then people expect it.
Totally.
For the discount thing, there's friends of ours that we shop with, and they have a small business, and every time we shop there, they always give us a discount. And it's like, we don't really expect it. We don't want the discount.
Right?
We want to support you all. So
if anything, you should never be giving a discount to your best friends because they want to support you fully.
Yeah. So it's one of those where, as the seller too, if somebody expects it and they say something about it, you're almost more stern not to give a discount because they expect it and ask for it, versus, and then you feel like you don't you feel the impact of the money lost.
Yeah.
In that sense, more so than if you're the seller and they don't expect it, but you give it, then you're kind of like the nice guy for giving them the discount that they didn't expect.
Totally. Yeah.
Or give them like something small as an item versus a discount. Maybe there's a different perspective there. They're gonna enjoy they're gonna have more value in the thing that you gave them that was extra rather than the $5 that they didn't pay for something.
Yeah, that's true. Very, very
all right.
true. We've
anything else?
No.
We're at 1:15.
We're pretty far in our
and you're 2 bottles in, and
I'm not 2 bottles in.
Your lips are red.
They are red.
You're a bottle and whatever in.
Yeah, if I drank white wine, this would be a lot easier. I'm only like it's like 3/4 of a bottle in. I had 2 glasses out of this. It's like a half a bottle.
So wait, you opened the bottle and you had a glass out of it, and then you were like, oh, it's going to go bad because I didn't. Because you had it sitting around after you already had a glass out of it?
Yeah, I had a glass like 2 days ago.
Oh. Okay.
So. But, I got a mystery wine bottle thing. My friend sold like 3 bottles of wine for $50. And
that's the one you were talking about.
Yeah!
You said you were going to give the wine with the wine glass or something like that.
Yeah, but we didn't end up doing that because I was stressed. But yeah.
Plus, how would you sell that to people that you would assume are over 21 and shipping wine through the mail and all that?
That's a good point. It's a solid point.
I mean, you probably need some kind of license or something to be distributing alcohol through mail or something.
Right.
Or selling it.
Solid point. Huh. I'm glad I didn't do that. Anyway. Have a great day.
Yeah, thanks for listening, guys, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks so much for listening to another episode of Wheel Talk. If you'd like to follow us on Instagram, you could find the podcast at wheeltalkpodcast, or you could find myself at RD Ceramics. That's R's in Ryan, D's in Durban, Ceramics.
Or you can find me at 5 Lines Pottery Studio. That's the number 5. And don't forget, share this with your friends, like us on Instagram, and don't forget to write a review. It helps us an awful lot. Thanks.